Alright, today we're looking at day 2 of solving quadratics by factoring, which this was chapter 4, topic 8. Alright, let's look at number 1. 4x squared minus 144 equals 0. Check the GCF, factor that out first. So the GCF was 4, so that leaves me with x squared minus 4 goes into 144 36 times equals 0. Okay, so x squared minus 36, can I factor this? Yes, I could use the cross and factor this, but I actually know that x squared minus 36 is a difference of 2 squares. Okay, because the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 36 is 6. So this is x squared minus 6 squared. So that tells me that x squared minus 36 factors into a special form. This plus this is the first factor, and this minus this is the second factor. So this has 3 factors. Now obviously 4 can't be equal to 0, so 4 is not going to be a solution. There's nothing I can do with 4. However, these two could be equal to 0, so I'm going to set each of those equal to 0. X plus 6 equals 0, x minus 6 equals 0. So these will be my solutions. So one of my solutions is going to be negative 6. That's one of my x-intercepts. And then my other solution is going to be positive 6. That's one of my other x-intercepts. So the two solutions to number 1 are negative 6 and positive 6. Of course, this problem is a lot easier if you know the difference of squares, how to do the difference of squares. Alright, let's look at number 2. So we got 20x squared equals negative 7x plus 6. This needs to be equal to 0, so both of these need to come to the other side. Alright, so I'm going to move the 7x, I'm going to move the negative 6. So I'm going to get 20x squared plus 7x minus 6 equals 0. Of course, I will check for the GCF, which is 1, so there's nothing that can be done there. So I'm going to have to factor this as it is. Alright, and the top is a times c. So 20 times negative 6. So that's negative 120. And the bottom is b, which is positive 7. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 120 and add to 7. So I'm actually going to have to go through these because I don't know what they are. 1 times 20, 2 times 60, 3 times 40, 4 times 30, 5 times 24, right? Yeah, 5 times 20 is 100, 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, 6 times 20, alright, 7 I don't think goes in, 8 goes in 15 times? Yeah, 8 times 10 is 80, and 8 times 5 is 40, so 80 plus 40 is 120. Okay, so 8 times 5. It looks like the ones I'm looking for are some combination of 8 and 15 because it needs to add to 7. So there's going to be positive 15 and negative 8. Those multiply to negative 120 and they add to positive 7. So what that's going to tell me is that I need to break up the 7x into 15x and negative 8x. So this is going to become 20x squared plus 15x minus 8x minus 6. And this is what I want to factor. Alright, so to do this, I'm going to factor out the GCF of each group. The first two terms, factor out the GCF of the first two terms, and factor out the GCF of the second two terms. So GCF of the first two terms, 20x squared and 15x, is 5x. And the GCF of the second two terms, negative 8x and negative 6, are negative 2. So I'm going to factor 5x out of the first two terms, be left with 4x plus 3. I'm going to factor negative 2 out of the second two terms. I'm going to be left with 4x plus 3, and then equals 0. Alright, so these two have a factor in common. They have 4x plus 3 in common. So I'm going to factor 4x plus 3 out. And what I'm going to be left with is what's in red, which is 5x minus 2, and then equals 0. Alright, so I've got the factored form of the original problem, 20x squared plus 7x minus 6. It's 4x plus 3, 5x minus 2. So now I need to set each of these equal to 0 because these two multiply to make 0. So I'm going to have two solutions. And each of these is going to give me a solution. So 4x plus 3 equals 0, or 5x minus 2 equals 0. Alright, so I solved the first one. Gives me 4x equals negative 3. I got to keep going. So I can divide by 4. So my first solution, x equals negative 3 over 4. That's my first solution. My second solution, add 2. 5x is equal to 2. Divide by 5. X is equal to 2/5. That is my second solution. So, my two solutions for number 2, negative 3 over 4 and 2 over 5. Alright, write a quadratic equation in standard form with the given roots and where a is equal to 1. Okay, so what this is telling me is that one of the solutions is 3 and one of the solutions is negative 2. So if I want to write an equation with these two roots, one of my factors needs to be 0 when, one of my factors needs to be 0 when x is 3, and one of my factors needs to be 0 when x is negative 2. Alright, so if I move this 3 to the other side, I would have x minus 3 equals 0. So this is the factor that would make 0 if x were 3, and I need to add 2, I need to add 2 to both sides. X plus 2 would make 0 as well. So these would be my two factors, x minus 3 and x plus 2. So x minus 3, x plus 2. That would be the equation in factored form equals 0. That would be the equation in factored form that gives me the given roots, 3 and negative 2. But I want the equation in standard form, which means I'm going to have to use the distributive property to expand this. X plus 3 and x minus 3, x minus 3 and x plus 2. So I'm going to use the distributive property to put this into standard form. So x times x is x squared, x times 2 is 2x, negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Combine the like terms, x squared minus x minus 6, and this equation, this quadratic equation, in standard form, would have the roots 3 and negative 2. It would have the solutions 3 and negative 2. Alright? Because I knew what factors these went with, and then I just need to distribute to put it into standard form. So, what about 0 and negative 1? Well, what factor makes x equal to 0? Well, x. That factor is 0, so x is going to be one of our factors. And what factor makes, when x is negative 1, what factor makes this 0? So we would add 1 to both sides. X plus 1 equals 0, so that would be our other factor. So our two factors, x and x plus 1. Well, I need this in standard form, so I need to use the distributive property. So you got x squared plus x equals 0, and that would have the factors um, 0 and -1. That would have the solutions 0 and -1. So this is in standard form, and it has the solutions 0 and -1. Alright, so for day 2, page 50, 1 through 6, 16, 17, 20, 21, 23.